Can I request CA Pramod Hegde to escort CA Hanish S onto the dais and then welcome him with a floral bouquet? Thank you, Pramod. Yeah, I have my privilege to introduce today's speaker, CA Hanish. Yes, Hanish has more than 10 years of proven work experience in the field of indirect taxes and GST. He works closely with clients engaged in complex businesses like pharma and real estate. Hanish has, to his credit, as a speaker on various impactful platforms across India, like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICSI, ICMAI, FKCCI, BCIC, and CTC. He heads the litigation practice and has represented clients at various judicial forums, including CESTAT, advance ruling, etc. He has a keen interest in new age businesses and is helping startups, EV leasing companies, gaming companies, crypto companies in various GST related matters. With this brief introduction, I present before you CA Hanish. Yes, over to you, sir.
Everyone, I am sure it's going to be a very difficult session for both of us, not because of the topic but because of the timing, right? So even I had a good lunch at home today. All right, good afternoon everyone. My topic today is to discuss on issues relating to healthcare. Okay, so let's quickly start. Healthcare, whenever we think of healthcare, we believe that it is exempt from tax, because anything and everything related to healthcare, somewhere there is a entry in the notification 12 of 2017. Okay, this is the primary entry. If you go to 9993, serial number 74 of notification 12 of 2017, it reads, healthcare services by a clinical establishment, an authorized medical practitioner or a paramedic. So any healthcare services which has been provided by a clinical establishment, which is a hospital, or an authorized medical practitioner, that is a doctor or a paramedic. There is no definition of paramedic as of now. Okay. So what do you mean by healthcare services, right? Okay. That has also been defined under the same notification by way of explanation. The healthcare definition is reproduced here. I will not want to go word by word into it. But the important point here is that healthcare service should lead to a treatment or a diagnosis or care of a illness. Okay, so the issue then was, is pregnancy also healthcare service? Right, that's why they added it here, saying a diagnosis, treatment or care for illness, injury, deformity, abnormality or pregnancy also will be treated as a healthcare service, right? Okay, but see, we are attending this session for 2 days. Okay, chairs are very comfortable, but assuming you are sitting on a chair which is a plastic chair, okay, and you are sitting here for 2 days, 3 days, CPE credits are not sufficient, so the 4th day also you attend. Okay, chairman sir is very accommodative, so he announces 5 more programs and you have to sit the entire day. Okay, and so the bones are shouting, saying that I am not able to sit anymore now. Okay, so you go to a person next to your house who has a board called bone setting done here. Have you seen that kind of board? I have seen. No, you have not seen? Okay, I have seen those kind of boards. There's a bone setting done here. So you go to him, he just hits you here, there, everywhere, and then tuck, one sound will come and you feel relief. Okay, now he charges you a 500 rupees. Is that liable to GST or not liable to GST? Because if it is liable to GST, okay, that means it is not healthcare. If it is not liable to GST, that means there is an exemption because of serial number 74. What do you think? Is it exempt or taxable? Taxable? Exempt? Sorry, taxable. Okay. We also find, okay, All of us are above 18. We also find a lot of tents when we go towards Whitefield or we are going outside of Bangalore. Okay, where, sorry senior members, they say, गुप्त रोग का इलाज यहाँ किया जाता है. In tent, he will list down some 500 diseases and say for everything he has a medicine. I have not had an occasion or opportunity to enter the tent, but is that exempt from GST or not exempt from GST? What do you think? If we don't talk, we are going to sleep. So we have to talk. Not to each other, but facing the podium. Not exempt? Why? Exempt? Anything which is healthcare services exempt. Illness is cured. We don't know whether illness will become more illness or not, we don't know, but the intention was for the illness to get cured. Yeah, so the next point comes into picture that one, it should lead to a diagnosis, and second important point is it should be by way of recognized system of medicine. And if it is not recognized system of medicine, then whatever bone setting is done, whatever is done in the tents, because that is not recognized medicine system, it will be liable to tax. So what do you mean by recognized system of medicine? We'll come back to it a little later, okay? But it has to be within the four corners of something which is recognized by the Indian government. There should be some notification somewhere which should have been issued saying this stream of practice, okay, is recognized by law as a medicine practice, and hence it will be exempt from tax. And anything beyond this will not be liable, will not be exempt, so it becomes taxable, right? Okay. And includes services of transportation of a patient. So there are two examples here which I can give you, okay? So if somebody has to get admitted to Apollo Hospital, okay, and Apollo, I'm just taking a name, I don't have any connection with them, and happily so, okay? So now, assuming somebody has to get admitted to Apollo Hospital, so they just call Apollo Hospital and says, can you please send the ambulance? They send the ambulance, okay, and at the end of the treatment, which is after 4 days, a bill is given where they say the total consultancy charges, the stay charges, the food charges, the medicine charges, plus the ambulance charges, okay, totally comes to say 5 lakh rupees. That ambulance charge is exempt from tax because it is part of a larger service of healthcare services. That's what we have understood under Section 8, composite supply and mixed supply. So this becomes a composite supply where the important objective or the principal supply was healthcare services and everything else is incidental to that. So even that ambulance is incidental to the healthcare service and hence exempt from tax. Okay. Now I am not getting Apollo ambulance for getting a patient admitted. So I call a private ambulance, okay, for transportation of patient. That also is exempt from tax. There is a separate entry. This is entry number A in 74. 74B talks about private ambulances also exempt from tax. Okay. But if we are transporting, unfortunately, a deceased, they are talking about transportation of a patient. If we have to transport a deceased, we have to focus only on GST, not feel bad about something which has happened, right? Now, and somebody collects money for transportation of a deceased. Is it exempt or not exempt? Exempt? There's no mention only here. Schedule 3. Very good, madam. Thank you very much. Okay. Schedule 3 says transportation of a deceased is not liable to GST at all, because Schedule 3 starts off with any supply, any activity or transaction which will not be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. The reason they have put it in Schedule 3, very bad chartered accountants joke, okay? The reason why they put that in Schedule 3 is GST is a destination-based consumption tax. When somebody expires, he is no longer in India. The destination is not in India, so government does not want to collect taxes. Very bad joke, but what to do? Post lunch, we'll have to try all the tricks to ensure that the audience is engaged with the speaker. Right now, I can already see somebody in that green shirt tilting on his left. Sir, pillow? No. Right, okay. Very tough subject you have given and tough time. I had actually volunteered. My session was at 4. I only said no. Let us make it at 2:30. Anyways, at 4 o'clock people are going to sleep. Let them sleep at 2:30 only. Right? So that 4 o'clock session, at least they are active in Naveen session. Alright? Clear? So ambulance by the hospital, composite supply, not taxable. Ambulance in a private vehicle, which is not relating to a composite supply, is also exempt because of another entry under under serial number 74. Clear everyone? Okay. Right. Another important aspect, if you observe here, is it says healthcare services does not include hair transplant or cosmetic or plastic surgery. So anything done for beautification, okay, will not be treated as healthcare services, and so it will be liable to tax. Is this clear? So we don't have to name any actor or actresses, but if they go to a hospital, that service might be taxable because they might be engaging themselves with cosmetic surgery or hair transplant or liposuction, okay, the procedure for removal of fat from the body, right? Okay. But again, if that cosmetic surgery is part of a treatment, okay, let's take an example again. I can think of Hrithik Roshan. Okay, Hrithik Roshan has a additional finger here. Okay, all of us, I'm sure, whoever is reading Times of India is aware of it. Okay, whoever reads Hindu does not know all this important information, but whoever reads Times of India knows about it. Okay, so he has a sixth finger here. Okay, now that does not cause any harm to him. He is able to live his life normally with that sixth finger as well. Okay, or the extra small thumb what he has. But assuming that thumb was in such a position, okay, it was somewhere here on the palm, that he was not able to carry out his regular activities at all. Okay, and for that the thumb had to be removed. Okay, so if you observe here, when undertaken to restore or reconstruct or function of a body affected due to some defects, that is removed, that additional thumb or finger is removed, then it will be treated as a healthcare service. Or second, unfortunately, somebody meets with the accident and his face is scarred and he has to go a plastic surgery to restore his face. That is part of healthcare service and will be exempt from tax. Clear? Yes, sir, please. Sorry. To reconstruct autonomy for what? No. So it says when undertaken to restore or reconstruct autonomy or functions of the body affected due to congenital defects. So it will get covered, still get covered. I think I overshot my example, but yes, it will still get covered. But what will specifically get covered definitely is when there is some issue because of which he is normally not able to carry out the functions. Right? Okay. It's a very important question. Madam, DGI notice has come already? It's come, sir? Okay, very good. Bangalore DGJ has already started issuing notices to all the hospitals, okay, saying that what is the amount of money you have collected for first dose, second dose, now maybe booster dose also very soon will get mandatory, right? So the money collected by you for vaccination, have you paid GST on that or not? Is the question. What do you think? Taxable, not taxable? Madam, you have done PhD in this. Please enlighten us. Taxable, not taxable? Taxable? Why is that? Okay. It's sorry. You are saying that you are consuming vaccine, which is a goods, not a service. So you are going to the hospital to buy the goods.
Yes.
Okay.
And even if it is given, in a company where they do this mass vaccination, so it is not in a clinical establishment.
Two important points madam is raising. One, exemption is given to healthcare service, not healthcare products. Correct, no, madam?
Correct.
And second, this vaccination can sometime be given outside the clinical establishment also. So it can be given at a, Bagmane Tech Park for all the techies. Correct, no? Okay. Any other view saying it is taxable? It's a regular. I buy Crocin, I have to pay GST on that. Not like that, okay.
It is also kind of the regular medicine where to urinary disease. When the other medicines are under GST, why should it should not be there?
So that's what. So it's a product which I'm buying. All
Yeah.
the other over-the-counter products are liable to tax. Why is vaccine
It is same
exempt
way.
from tax?
It's same.
Good point. Sorry. So you are saying it is exempt or taxable? It, sir is saying it is exempt. Why, sir? Oh, taxable. I'm sorry. Exempt, Babu sir. Why, sir?
Doctor only has to give injection.
It's a very good point.
Otherwise, no, crocin I can take. Doctor need not to be here. Injection given by some experts. So it's been treatment. It is exempted.
It's a very good point. Can that be, sir? That part I have also thought about. But can that be because vaccines itself were not available, and once vaccine is available, it will be available over the counter? Okay. First of all, it is goods or services we have to understand. Correct? No. Right? We thought after GST comes, all the questions will be answered. We will have no work at all. They say, no, anything done on your birthday, you will do it for the entire year, they say. GST was launched in midnight. So all the professionals are working even at midnight because notifications come at midnight. Everything happens at midnight. Daytime, nothing happens. Correct, no? Service. What Babu sir mentioned. Right, okay.
That is service, and whatever is not given to the inpatients, that is
That is the logic based on which the notices are being issued. So what do I believe? Okay, I might be completely wrong on this because I am also researching on this topic. Okay, point number 1: is it a health care service or a health cure service which is exempt from tax? What is exempt from tax? Is it health care or health cure? Health care. It is not cure. So everything need not be a cure. Vaccination is not a cure, okay, but it's only preventing a COVID virus to be attacked, correct? So it is a health care service. So based on that, even if it does not cure anything, but it is a preventive cure which I am taking, okay, which is part of care, and so it should be exempt. Okay. That is one argument, okay, which based on which I would want to argue with the department, okay. Point number 2. Okay, like sir, somebody mentioned here, I cannot take that vaccination on my own. Okay, there will be a nurse who will check my temperature, who will check my BP. Okay, he will check whether I have had food properly or not. They will ask me when was the last dosage received. They will also look at data was available very less, but they will check whether I have been infected during the last 15 days or not. I have to fill that form and give a declaration. And only after examination of my medical health, okay, that vaccination will be administered to me. So it is not over the counter purchase which I am making. Correct? Third, like sir rightly mentioned, even today it is not available in a chemist shop. Okay, so it is not a product. I am going there for the service and not for goods. So according to me, point number 1, is it goods or service? It is a service. Okay, point number 1. Point number 2, is it health care? Yes, it is health care because health care also includes preventive care. Okay, and basis these 2 reasons, I believe that vaccination is exempt from tax. But I am aware of the counter arguments, and that is for us to argue in the court to then see whether who is going to win, who is going to lose. But the point is, has the department started issuing notices? Yes. How many medicines have you sold? Multiplied by 1,000 rupees per medicine, multiplied by 18%. This is the amount of money you are required to deposit. Please deposit, otherwise furnish your responses. Okay, at least Bangalore has happened. I am told even in Mumbai very soon the notices are going to be issued. Right? Okay. I thought that will be the last question which I will ask. Thank you, madam. Right, okay. Now, another point which madam raised, very, very important point, very interesting point actually. Madam said that the vaccination is being administered outside clinical establishment. So is it necessary that the treatment should happen within the hospital, or can it happen outside the hospital also? There was one more question even I had actually. So should the treatment be in the clinical establishment, or the treatment should be by the clinical establishment. It is by. It need not be in. There could be some emergency where the doctors might have to come to the house and treat the patient and go. Correct? In that case, though the treatment is not in the clinical establishment, but the point is it is by the clinical establishment, still it will be exempt from tax. So even if it is in the food campus of Bagmane Tech Park, it will be exempt from tax. I am just giving the names of whatever comes to my mind. I have no association with them. Right? Okay. Is it clear? Okay. Now what do you mean by a clinical establishment? Okay, there are different terminologies which have been used. One, it is a hospital, as we understand, or a nursing home, or a clinic, or a sanatorium. Now, what is sanatorium? Even I was not aware of, so I did some Google around it, and they said wherever for prolonged illness, I don't have to be at a hospital, but where there are some doctors who come in and go out. Okay, that is called a sanatorium. Okay. Okay. The prolonged diseases. So what I got to know, example was TB only. Therefore, prolonged diseases, you don't have to have a constant monitoring of the doctor. The doctor will come once in a while, but you have to just be there. That is called sanatorium. Is my understanding right? And example was TB. The first this thing was TB only. Right. Okay. By whatever name you want to call it, that will be called a clinic. That will be called a clinical establishment. Okay. And what should that clinical establishment do? That should also do healthcare only. Because if you see the wordings, again, it should have the facility which allows for diagnosis, treatment or care for illness, injury, deformity, etc. Okay. And it also includes a place established as an independent entity, meaning it can be a standalone entity or part of the hospital for carrying out diagnostic or investigative services. So all this Lalpath labs, okay, these are carrying out diagnostic and investigative services, blood test, okay, hemoglobin test. All these are also treated as clinical establishment, providing healthcare services, and so it will be exempt from tax. Clear? And again, that's where the logic flows here. Diagnostic services, they don't cure anything. They are preventive or they form part of the healthcare service, because doctor can now take a informed decision on what medicine should be given, what medicine should not be given. That also forms part of healthcare, and so it will be exempt from GST. Third, what do you mean by a authorized medical practitioner? Okay, generally we believe he is a doctor. Okay, and here I would want to read word by word, because there is one small interpretation which I might be completely wrong, but I would want to read it out for you. Authorized medical practitioner means a medical practitioner registered, like we are registered members of ICI, he has to be registered with any of the council of the recognized system of medicines established or recognized by law in India. So he should have a certificate basically, okay, which recognizes him to be a doctor, okay, and includes, this is where the problem starts, and includes a medical professional having the requisite qualification to practice in any recognized system of medicine in India. So even if you have a qualification but not a degree, unfortunately the definition, at least my reading says, he can be authorized medical practitioner and he can be exempt from taxes under healthcare services. Because the first part says you should be registered. But second part says, and includes a medical professional having the requisite qualification to practice. Okay, now we'll have to go to Clinical Establishment Act to see who can practice. There it says you should have a recognized degree. Okay, you should be recognized by somebody that you are a doctor. But then why are these multiple words being used? I fail to understand. Because already registered is covered. Then why do you want to and includes a medical professional is covered? I'm not able to follow that. I spoke to a couple of doctor friends also. They said the second part actually is not relevant, because only if you have a certificate you can practice, otherwise you are not allowed to practice. Sorry? Correct. So no, I'm saying first they have said you have to register. For registration qualification is required. So that is already covered in the first part. Now why was the requirement of the second part? Perfect. But why does it include, if first category is already covered? Okay. Sorry. No, I didn't follow you, sir. I'm sorry. But there also you get I have seen a certificate. At least Ayurveda doctor and allopathy doctor, I've seen a certificate is given to them that you are a doctor. In fact, yoga also I have seen. And is it allowed? Okay, so I'm not aware of that. Okay. But then that may not be a healthcare service. That's all. I don't think so, sir, but okay, we'll have to examine it case by case. No, it definitely includes. But that includes also says having the requisite qualification to practice. Now, I can practice only if there is a certificate. Okay. I I have not much knowledge about that, so I will skip that part, but I think there is some issue in this definition. Okay, so now let's look at what is recognized system of medicine. Okay, that has also been given by a notification under Clinical Establishment Act, which says Ayush basically, allopathy, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, plus a N in Ayush, naturopathy. These are the recognized systems of medicine. So anybody practicing in these recognized systems of medicine will be called a doctor or a authorized medical practitioner. The establishment will be called a clinical establishment, and both of these, whenever they provide healthcare services, that will be exempt from tax. So these are the authorized streams of medicine which are allowed in India as of now. Clear? Okay. Now, having covered this very complex notification, let's look at few practical questions which arise, and here I will require a lot of your inputs, and then definitely whatever is my view, I would want to share it with you. Okay. The recent amendment, okay, which was introduced to the healthcare service, they added a proviso to that entry, and they said, provided that you are renting out room to a patient where the room charges are more than 5,000 rupees per night, okay, then that category of charge what you have collected from the patient will not be exempt. That is given under notification 12 of 2017. Then rate notification 11 of 2017 says whatever has been excluded from healthcare service, which is the room given to the patient more than 5,000 rupees, that will be liable to tax at the rate of 5% without the benefit of input tax credit. Okay. So now if somebody is undergoing a cancer treatment in Apollo or Fortis, the bill shows that the treatment cost is say a lakh of rupees, okay, or 5 lakh rupees, okay, and then there is a separate line item which says accommodation or room, standard room, deluxe room, or whatever room they want to call it as, okay, that was say 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees, because it says exceeding 5,000, so 6,000 rupees or say 10,000 rupees. On that 10,000 rupees room rent for 5 days assuming, which is 50,000 rupees, a tax at the rate of 5% will have to be charged by the hospital and paid to the government. Is this clear? Definitely not clear, but is this exemption entry clear? Right? Now there are few issues which arise because of this entry. First point, madam, is healthcare service a composite supply or not? That takes us to section 8, which tells us what is composite, what is mixed, and what is individual supply. Okay? So, definitely no, I don't go there to stay in the room. I'm not going to Fortis saying room is very good compared to Apollo. I go there because doctor is very good, the treatment is very good, the facility is very good. Correct? So the principal supply decides where I will be going, okay, which is healthcare service, right? Anything and everything is incidental to that. If there is a condition which I have, which does not require me to stay in the hospital. I will just go to the doctor, he will give me or prescribe some tablets to me. I will come home, consume those tablets and sleep. But if there is such a treatment or such a condition that I am required to get admitted, only then I am getting admitted. So getting admission into a hospital is subsidiary to the main activity of receiving medical attention. Correct? So it is definitely a composite supply. Can I break a composite supply and say, okay, this is a composite supply, but I will break the elements of these composite supply, and on this part of the composite supply it is exempt from tax. I will break some of the components, these are taxable. No, they are saying it is liable to tax at 5% now. Perfect. Even if you break it, it will have the color of the main supply and the rate of tax will remain the same. Because if you look at the definition of composite supply and compare it with mixed supply has to be for a single price. Okay? Composite supply need not be for a single price. If you look at the definition of composite supply and mixed supply is always at a single price. Okay? But composite supply can be at different prices. Take a classic example. Okay, I go to Adigas to buy masala dosa. Okay, I have not carried the container. I want the sambar. Okay, and the chutney. He says, do you have the container? I said, no. So he says, for the dosa, I am going to charge you 50 rupees. But for all these extra things which I have to add and give it to you in a plastic container, I am going to charge you 5 rupees. So totally Adigas is asking me 55 rupees. Okay, and there is a breakup. 50 rupees is dosa, 5 rupees is packing charges. Is it a composite supply or Adigas is selling me dosa in plastic container? Did I go to Adigas because the container is good or sambar is good? Sorry, restaurant is always a composite supply to the extent of food for consumption. Schedule 2 says. They are not talking about plastic. Correct? No. So Schedule 2 talks about whatever is for human consumption is composite supply. To that I agree. But plastic, why is it treated as a composite supply? I have to come back to 8 only again. 8 says you have not gone there to buy the plastic container. For that you go to Avenue Road. Don't come to Adigas. You have come to Adigas for dosa. Incidentally, because dosa cannot be served to you in your hand, packing charges are being incurred. It is a composite supply. Even if breakup is available, the rate of tax is going to be 5% only. Correct? Is my understanding right? Or no, if plastic container is 18%, on 5 rupees they'll charge 18%, on 50 rupees they'll charge 5%. No, on the entire amount it will be 5% because it is a composite supply. Incidentally, in circular number 27, before this amendment, a question was raised by the department and they have only answered whether rent of rooms provided to inpatient is exempt. They had themselves said room rent in hospital is exempt. Okay. Second, by way of circular 118, which we are going to refer a little later as well, they had said artificial breaking of a composite supply is not provided in the law, not allowed in the law. Okay, so both the places they have said composite supply cannot be broken, I'm sorry. This is all prior to the notification. The first one is prior to, the second, and they have not withdrawn, and second one is also prior to, because this notification came only in 2022. Okay. Then there is a third circular, again prior to the notification, okay, which unfortunately says, okay, what had happened in this case is, all car related products were liable to tax at the rate of 28%. Even today they are liable to tax at the rate of 28%. Okay. But so if I give my car for servicing, is it a composite supply of servicing of a car? Then it should be 18% because I have gone there for servicing of the car. Okay. Or is it that I have gone for purchase of products and labor is incidental? Then it will become 28%. Okay. So that was the debate in the automobile industry. But everybody was charging for the parts 28%, for the labor 18%. To regularize that practice, government said, even if it is not in so many words, they said if there is a bifurcation available of parts and services, applicable rate of tax will be applicable tax rate will have to be levied. So if the bill has breakup of parts 28%, labor charges 18%. The entire concept of composite supply was defeated by way of this circular. Okay, because then what is composite supply? Everywhere, wherever I have a breakup, you are going to say that breakup is available, so applicable tax rate has to be applied. So there are two circulars in our favor that composite supply cannot be broken. There is one circular which says composite supply, if rates are differently charged, then the applicable rate of tax will be made available. Okay, so this circular 47, insofar as it was issued for automobile, can create problem for any industry when a breakup is given of goods and services. Okay. Now, presently, okay, on 18 July 2022, entry number 31A was added to notification 11 of 2017, which says if the room rent is charged more than 5,000 rupees by a hospital, then the rate of tax will be 5% without ITC. Okay. I have a lot of doubts on this entry. Point number 1, okay, this entry number 31A is given under HSN code, what you know, 9993. 9993 is HSN code for healthcare service, not hotel services. So they are saying it is liable to tax as a healthcare service. How can accommodation in a room be treated as healthcare service and made liable to tax? So I am sure somebody is going to challenge based on the HSN itself. Okay, that is point number 1. Point number 2, you have seen a lot of cases where they say pregnancy package these days. Okay, you want standard, you want gold, you want platinum. Okay, depending on what you want, the number of zeros will keep adding behind. Okay, and you will be getting premium services. Okay, with 1 lakh, there'll be only, we will ensure that the kid comes home. Okay, at 1.5 lakhs, a bigger room will be given. Photos of the kid will be taken. Okay, and the husband will also be allowed in the delivery room. Right? So they have different packages. They want to market it, let them market it the way they want to. We are interested in GST. Okay. So now in that package, which is 1 lakh or 1.5 lakhs, the hospital is not required to give a breakup. And 100% those hospitals' room rent is more than 5,000 rupees. How do you determine, or how will the department determine that the room rent is more than 5,000 rupees when the price is consolidated and ask the hospital to pay tax? Because I have agreed for a single price. I have said 1 lakh rupees. And in my bill also, I have charged 1 lakh rupees. That's all. Okay. That is one issue. Second, if the accommodation is given to a person other than patient. Okay, so let's take an example of a very big hospital which has an ICU, and the attenders of the patients or the people who accommodate the patients are not allowed in the ICU. So the hospital has made a provision, a separate wing, wing B. Okay, wing A is for treatment, wing B, where they give accommodation also. What will be the rate of tax if they charge more than 5,000 rupees? Will it be 5% without ITC? No. Healthcare service, as part of healthcare service, if they provide accommodation, that will be covered under this entry of 5%, and that will be liable to tax at 5%. But if accommodation is given to a person who is not a patient, then the regular rate of tax which is applicable to hotels will be applicable here, which is up to 1,000 rupees no tax, 1,000 to 7,500 rupees 12%, and more than 7,500 18%. Clear? Third, what will be the rate of tax in case a patient is admitted in the hospital, okay, for more than 2 or 3 days, and he or she is undergoing a cosmetic surgery treatment? Will it be 5% or not? Again, cosmetic surgery is not healthcare. 5% is applicable only for accommodation provided to a person who is undergoing a treatment under healthcare services. Cosmetic is not healthcare, it comes out of healthcare, it becomes liable to tax at 18%, which is the rate of tax applicable even for cosmetic surgery. Clear? Fourth, okay, there's a big room which is being shared between 2 people, patient 1 and patient 2. Okay, from each of the patient, 3,000 rupees is collected. Okay, patient 1 also 3,000, patient 2 also 3,000. But collectively, the hospital is being able to collect 6,000 rupees for that room. Okay. Now is it more than 5,000 rupees and so it is taxable? No. The entry number 31A says per person, per room, per person. So if per person is more than 5,000, only then it will be liable to 5%, otherwise it will not be liable to 5%, though as a room, more than 5,000 rupees has been collected. Is it clear? Any doubts on this? We'll move ahead. Okay. Exemption from registration. Now hospitals generally provide exempt service only. Okay. So are they exempt from obtaining registration? Are they required to obtain registration or not required? If they have cosmetic surgery wing, definitely it will be liable to tax, so they will have to obtain registration. Okay. But if they are only doing treatment or say healthcare services and no cosmetic surgery is involved, then are they exempt from obtaining registration? Sorry? Yeah. If they have a pharmacy, if they have given the property on rent to Adigas, if they are collecting parking charges, all those issues will come, because section 22 says if your aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, you have to obtain registration under the GST law. You are liable to obtain registration under the GST law. 20 lakhs aggregate turnover, the word aggregate turnover includes taxable supplies as well as exempt supplies. Correct? So if my turnover is say 100 crores as a hospital and only cancer treatment, I am still required to obtain registration because section 22 does not bifurcate between taxable supplies and exempt supplies. But then section 23 comes to my rescue and says if you are dealing only in exempt supplies, even if the turnover is more than 20 lakhs, you are not required to obtain registration. Okay. So let's look at a hospital. Turnover 100 crores, only cancer treatment, no other income at all. Okay. Under section 22, they are liable to register because their turnover is more than 20 lakhs. But 23 says you are not required to obtain registration because you are exclusively dealing in exempt supplies. Okay. But section 23 exemption is available only if you are dealing exclusively in exempt supplies. Imagine this hospital has a turnover of 100 crores from cancer treatment and 1 lakh rupees parking charges. Only 1 lakh. They are not covered under 23 because they are not exclusively dealing in exempt supplies. They'll come back to 22. They have to obtain registration. Now let's look at a hospital who has planned very well that they will not have any income other than hospital income. Okay, the balance entire land, whatever belonged to them, they have sold it to their private to a private company which is part of the trust. Okay, which is part of the trustees of the trust. Okay, so hospital and the private limited are de-aligned. Okay, there is a boundary which has been drawn. Hospital P&L account will only have cancer treatment. All the other incidental activities, hospital is not giving on rent. The pharmacy is being run by a private limited company. The restaurant is run by a private limited company. The parking lot is also run by a private limited company and not by the hospital. In this case, can we say hospital is exempt from obtaining registration? Yes, of course, because everything is healthcare. Okay. Now, they had to import some services from outside India into India. Okay, they wanted to take some consultation of a doctor, or they wanted to import some technical knowledge from outside India into India. Okay. Because of that, they had to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, they had to, or they sponsored an event. Okay, the hospital sponsored an event. Okay. Now, they are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Alright, if they are a body corporate, if the hospital is established as a body corporate, then they are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Okay. Section 24 now comes into picture and says that if you are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, you are mandatorily required to obtain registration under the GST law. Correct? So now we have 3 sections into play. If my turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, I am liable to register. But if that turnover is only exempt, I am not required to obtain registration. But if I trigger something like RCM, I am required to obtain registration mandatorily. So we are talking about a hospital having a turnover of 100 crores, which is exclusively dealing in cancer treatment, which is healthcare services, which is exempt from tax. They have imported certain services or sponsored an event because of which RCM liability has got triggered. Okay, or they have availed the service of a lawyer, and because they are a business entity, okay, they are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Now, the question is, will they be exempted from registration because of section 23, or they will be mandatorily required to obtain registration because of section 24? What do you think? Mandatory registration? Why, madam? Not, section 24 reads as notwithstanding. Madam, please go and read ahead. It says notwithstanding anything contained in 22(1), not 23. That means we don't know whether 23 will override 24 or 24 will override 23. Between 22 and 24, 24 overrides 22. I have successfully confused everyone. It is like in that plate which we took during lunch, the sambar and the paneer sabji got mixed. Correct, no? Like that I have properly confused all of you. I will repeat again. 22, liability to register. 23, exemption from registration. 24, mandatory registration. Section 24 says that I will override whatever is there in section 22. So even if my turnover is less than 20 lakhs, but if I obtain services from a lawyer, under 24 I have to mandatorily obtain registration. Even though my turnover is less than 20 lakhs. There is an exemption for loyal services. We will not get into that as of now. Okay. So I have to obtain registration. Now the question is whether 23 will prevail or 24 will prevail. For that, I would like to draw your attention to a lot of exemption notifications, specifically notification 65 of 2017. What does it say? See, section 24 says that if you are supplying goods or services through an e-commerce operator and the e-commerce operator is required to deduct TDS on your supplies, then you have to mandatorily obtain registration. That is what section 24 says. Now there is a notification issued under section 23(2), that is notification 65 of 2017, which says as long as your turnover is less than 20 lakhs, you are not required to obtain the registration mandatorily. That means what? Whatever is mandatory in 24 can be given an exemption in 23 is what law is only saying to us. Which means I would believe 23 overrides 24. Even if I am mandatorily required to obtain registration because I have triggered a RCM transaction, but as long as my outward supplies are exempt from tax, I am not required to obtain registration under the GST law. Is my argument. Clear? I am not sure if I am able to convey it properly, but that is how I am looking at the law. Clear? Because of reading of 65 of 2017. Yes, sir, please. No, sorry, I didn't get you, sir. Note. Okay. Right. I am saying 23(2) allows the government to issue a notification to notify people who are not required to obtain registration. Perfect. That's what I am saying. That is how we will have to understand is what, when there is a conflict, that is how we will have to resolve the conflict, by looking at the other instances in the law. No, I am not reading the notification to override 24. The notification is issued by using the powers under 23(2). That means 23(2) is supreme than 24. Yeah, only when the notification is issued. No, but that means, indirectly, that means 23 overrules 24. Which in this case is doing. That's how I am reading it. So if there is a conflict, we will have to resolve by way of a harmonious construction. How do we harmonize it? You have only told that 23 can override 24 in some instances. That means even in this instance, it can override. Perfect. But if the law itself is saying you don't have to register, I don't have to pay tax only, no, madam. Correct? One place you are saying register and pay tax. Other place you are saying don't register. I will not register. Correct? No. In fact, you will not believe, madam, before 1st July 2017, when 9/4 came into picture, all the schools, colleges and hospitals, they did not want to obtain registration under the GST law. Because for that small amount of prospectus charges or for parking charges, all their URD purchases were becoming liable to tax under reverse charge, for which they cannot take input credit. I remember one of the discussion I having with a school in Andhra, where what they did is, they said only education services we will book here in my educational trust. Okay, I have a private limited company which runs behind the trust. I will enter into a contract with that company saying everything related to procurement, you are required to procure it, including legal services for franchisee agreements which I enter with somebody else. So it is not my headache only. I will pay you only management fees. So you take the registration, you pay the expenses, you pay the RCM liability because you are availing the services. You give me a report whether franchisee agreement is okay or not. Because they wanted to save the URD tax which they were required to pay at that point of time, on which credit was not available. Right? So from that perspective only this discussion is whether 24 will override 23 or the reverse. Right? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. In that case, registration not required. Anyway, sir, even if you include that, you are exclusively dealing in exempt supplies only. 23 itself will come into picture. So anyways, 23 is helping you. Second point is whatever is not a supply should not be part of the aggregate turnover itself, because law itself is saying is not a supply. And aggregate turnover is an aggregation of all the supplies. So even there, the 2 lakhs is not required to be included. So your aggregate turnover is 19 lakhs. So you are not required to obtain registration. So you are out because of 23 also, you are out because of 22 also. Outside India, how will they do it? If I can get some more facts of it. Okay. They bill. Okay. And the patients of outside India are being treated. Telemedicine is there. Coming to surgery, I have the answer. So that's why I wanted to get to that question only, which I wanted to answer. Okay. For that next point, ma'am. Okay. If they have to come to India, we saw a patient who had to be flown out into India because she was very obese. Okay. So now obese, one way of looking at it is it is a cosmetic treatment, and so it will be liable to tax. The other way to look at it is, this person was so obese that she was not able to do her regular activities like getting up also. Okay, so I would think it is a healthcare service. Okay, though the eventual responsibility of the doctor is to remove all the fat, but this is actually a healthcare because the lifestyle of the person itself has changed because of this obesity. Okay, so okay, let's take somebody who has come from outside India. Let's take an easy example. Okay, somebody has come from outside India into India for treatment. Okay, and yes, they have paid the money in foreign currency. Okay, for export of service, the supply or service should be in India, the recipient should be outside India. Okay, money should be received in foreign currency, and the place of supply of that service should be outside India. If you look at section 13, one of the provisions says, if the provision of service requires that person to come to India, or if it requires that person to be made available, the place where the service is performed will be the place of supply. So there, where a person from outside India is traveling to India for the purpose of the treatment, he is supposed to be made available in India, only then treatment can be given to him. It will not qualify to be export of service, though India has received convertible foreign exchange for that service. Clear? Just some more doubts what I had in export of services, some issues which I have dealt with. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now, this is what, madam, you had asked. Okay. Second, see, during this COVID onset, okay, lot of foreign countries, okay, a lot of countries outside India were trying to give swabs to India, or India was giving swabs to outside India, so that they can look at what are the variants and they can see what is the treatment which is possible. Okay. So like US cells, sent some cells, okay, cancer cells, okay, to India, okay, and ask a research team to check what is the treatment which can be given to arrest the growth of cancer cells. So some research is going on. Okay. Now the issue again here, or blood samples are given saying please check whether everything is okay in this or not. Okay. So there is some bit of work which is relating to a foreign company or a foreign hospital, which research is being undertaken by the Indian entity. Will this be treated as export or not? Okay. Again, if you go to section 13, 13 says that if some goods are required to be made available for the purpose of rendering the services, the place of supply is the place where the goods have been made available. Let's take an example, very simple example, okay, that I have a laptop which is outside India. Okay, I want to upgrade that laptop, but in USA that cost of upgradation is very expensive, very high. Okay, and my neighbor, my cousin from USA is coming into India, so I tell him, I give him the laptop in USA, say you please go to SP Road, get this upgradation done and come back. Okay, and I will pay the money from here in dollars. Okay, so now we have to check in the hands of the vendor who is in SP Road whether this is export of service or not, because he is receiving the money in convertible foreign exchange. Section 13 says, if the service requires making goods available, the place where the goods are made available will be the place of supply, and so this will not be treated as export of service because place of supply is very much in India and not outside India. Okay. Based on same logic, the service tax department started issuing notices, not just GST, service tax department started issuing notices to all these research laboratories saying that you have got tissue or blood samples or cells from a person outside India, you are required to work on these cells, the blood samples and tissues, and give your report. So the goods are being made available to you, correct, in India. Place of supply is the place where the goods have been made available, that is India. So the services rendered by you are not export services at all. That was the ground based on which notices were issued. Okay, just sorry, sir, I have sufficient time, no? I'm not carrying a watch today. Okay, I have 30 more minutes. Okay, so I can bother you for 30 more minutes. Right, very nice. Right, so now the issue was whether GST is applicable, service tax was applicable, or GST is applicable on this or not. What do you think? What is your view? You got the question right? Place of supply is outside India, but tissue has come into India and I'm doing research. That's a very important, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. Okay. In case of laptop, the laptop was actually sent back. In case of the patient came and he went back. Right. In this case, the tissue is not going back. It is being used up in the service. Good point, ma'am. Okay. So according to ma'am, it is export. Any other answer? So here, there is a provision, okay. If you look at one of the circular again, which was issued in October 2019, as far as ESDM is ESDM, I had by-hearted this full form. Let me see if I've got it correct. Electronic Semiconductor Design Manufacturing Industry. Okay, I remember. Okay, Electronic Semiconductor Design Manufacturing Industry. So what they do is, they will ask me to design say a integrated chip or integrated circuit. Okay, I will design it. They will design it in the same, once I have given the design, they will print exactly the same way on the integrated circuit, like a motherboard or a IC. Okay, they'll print it. But now I will not get the payment till I'm able to prove that my design is properly functioning. They will send that IC to me, that is the integrated chip. They will ask me to load the software, test it, and send the test reports along with the prototype. So what is the service involved? One, I have to conceptualize and design. See, if you look at any electronic vehicle, no, or electronic machine, entire thing is controlled by that small panel, because that will say where the start button will be, where the switch off button will be. Correct? It's like a flow chart in our information technology, right? If you start the button, the electricity will pass and it will ask you for other instructions based on which the machine will perform. So I will conceptualize it, I will design it, and I will share the design with him. Okay? Now, the US entity is going to print it exactly the same way. Send it back to me and saying, you have designed it, now prove to me that it is working or not. Okay, so I will test it, I will load the software, I will load all the equipments, the tools, the switch buttons, the start button, the end button, everything I will load it. Okay, and then I will test it, and a proof of concept I will say, look, this is working, you can release my payment. The issue here was again the GST department, that is service tax department, was saying that the goods have been made available to you, okay, and so it is not export of service because place of supply is the place where the goods are made available, right? So a circular was issued which said testing of prototype is only a small portion of the entire activity which you are doing. The end result is not at all, nobody is interested in the testing, it is only to prove that what you have told is correct or not, but the main activity is design services, okay, and that's where I told you, this circular was used saying that a composite supply cannot be vivisected. Earlier we had discussed, right? So this composite supply has a lot of elements, you cannot break it and only one part is performed in India, so you cannot ask the entire transaction to be taxed or that one particular portion to be taxed, okay? This has to be treated as a composite supply which has taken place outside India, and so export benefit is required to be given, okay? Second, under section 13, there is 1313. Like income tax, we have double taxation avoidance agreement. Okay, section 13, subsection 13 says, if because of place of supply provisions, you are ending up paying tax in India and outside India also, then government will issue a notification to ensure that double taxation is avoided. Using those powers under section 13, subsection 13, a notification 4 of 2019 was issued specifically for pharma companies. Okay, example, clinical trials, or some drug is sent to us, okay, for testing purposes, and then we have to give the reports. So specifically for those kind of, some 10 activities have been listed down. For those 10 activities, they said even though the goods are being made available in India, it will be treated as export of service and it will be entitled to all the export benefits including exemption from GST. Now this notification 4 of 2019 is applicable only for those 10 situations, so it may not cover our situation. But the circular 118 only gives the principle based on which exemption has to be decided. I would believe, like what madam said, I am getting the tissues to work on those tissues, the tissues are getting consumed, not sending it back, and the most important part is that nobody requires the tissue back, they require the reports or the analysis done based on the reading of the tissues. So basis that, I would believe that the tissues, the cells, or the blood samples which are made available to research institutions in India will be exempt from tax. Cases are there before tribunal as of now. We'll have to wait for the judgments, but this is the line of argument based on which we can argue that it is exempt from tax. Yes, sir, please. Sorry. Blood sample will not be goods, but tissue is goods. Sorry. Yeah, it can be used also in another body, so it can be goods as well. In fact, in customs, if you look at the tariff, tissues files the entry. Blood also files the entry. Blood sample does not file an entry. It is not a saleable quantity maybe. Okay, but tissue finds the entry in customs tariff. Right? Now let's look at few circulars which have been, few additional circulars which have been issued by the government relating to healthcare. Okay. Again, these are based on the notices which were issued to the lot of companies. Infertility. Okay. So lot of notices were issued saying that infertility is not a disease. It's not a illness which is being cured. Okay. And so this infertility curing centers, whatever treatments they give, are liable to tax. And based on this, notices were issued in service tax also, and notices have been issued in GST also. Luckily, a circular was issued, circular 177, which says infertility is also an abnormality, a disease or an ailment. Though there is not much logic given in the circular, they say it is also a abnormality, and these ART and IVF treatments are helping overcome that condition, and so it will be exempt from tax. Whenever exemption comes, nobody questions. So logic has not been given here. Said, okay, it is a treatment, so we'll take that exemption. Anyways, nobody was paying tax on these treatments. Okay. Second, another treatment. I'm sorry, there's some typo error here. I think there's some cut copy paste error here. So what happens is, a hospital say collects 1,000 rupees from us, okay, for consulting with the doctor. They will retain 250 rupees and they will pay 750 rupees to the doctor who is with whom we are consulting. So basically, I have paid 1,000 rupees. The doctor gets 750 rupees for providing healthcare services. The hospital retains 250 rupees. The issue is now, the hospital might have collected the money from the patient, but why is hospital retaining 250 rupees? The hospital is retaining 250 rupees because they schedule the appointment, they provide a room where the patient can consult with the doctor. Okay, so all these incidental services are being provided by the hospital. So the issue then was whether this 250 rupees is healthcare service or it is a business support service. There is a support service which they are providing to healthcare, because healthcare services are exempt. Supporting healthcare is not exempt. Okay, if you look at the entry also 9993, it talks about exemption to healthcare, not support to healthcare. Okay, so again a circular was issued that even that retention money retained by the hospital, which is 250 rupees in this case, is also part of the healthcare service only, and so it will be exempt from GST. Right? Composite supply will come into picture when it is to buy a single supplier. Here there are two suppliers. That is the issue. Correct, no? Same thing. Oh, one second. Okay. There's some typo error here. I think in rewording something has gone wrong. Whenever I'm circulating the PPT, I will just change this. Now, again, there is a circular with respect to distinction between inpatients and outpatients. So, where the food is supplied to an inpatient, it is said that it is supplied based on the advice given by the doctor, and so it is composite supply of healthcare services, and so it will be exempt from tax. Okay, but when food is supplied to an outpatient, assuming, why will they provide, I don't know, but if they provide, or they provide to a person who is not a patient, okay, then it is not healthcare service. Then the hospital is running restaurant services and it will be liable to tax at the rate of 5%. Clear? Okay. Apart from healthcare services, the hospital also provides medicines, tablets, injections, PPE kits are also sold. Okay, wheelchair and crutches, clothes, towel, soap to an in-house patient. Okay, stents, pacemakers. So now the issue is, when they provide all these, and in the bill there is a bifurcation of all these items, whether GST is applicable on the same or not. Again the same argument, if it is to an inpatient, okay, it is part of healthcare services and so exempt from tax. But if it is to an outpatient, then it is not part of healthcare services and so it will become taxable. In this case, there is a Karnataka advance ruling. And Naveen sir is also here. It is in Columbia Asia case only. Okay. There they say if the outpatient is mandatorily required to obtain these medicines from the hospital, even if it is outpatient, it is exempt. But if it is not mandatorily required to obtain from the hospital, then it is taxable because it is sale by a pharmacy. Now, how will somebody know whether it is mandatory or not mandatory? The doctor has given prescription. I will go to the pharmacy, buy that and come. Okay. So it will be generally outpatient will be taxable, inpatient will be exempt because it will be treated as part of healthcare services only. Right. Okay. Next, medical tourism is picking up in India. I am not talking about cases where foreigners are coming into India for medical treatment. if you see earlier on Facebook, you'd get pictures of Kashmir saying a holiday. Okay, now at 35, 40 now, at least my feeds are showing that treatment in Kashmir. So there is a holiday also for 7 days, and along with that there will be Ayurvedic treatment also will be given. So the marketing is this way. Ayurvedic treatment will be given to you, okay, for 7 days for treatment of a specific problem which you are facing, which is a which is a problem which Ayurveda can treat. But the additional aspects which will be taken care of is you can stay here for 1 week, because this treatment will take time of 1 week, because every day there will be some massages, there will be some meditation, there will be some medicines which are required to be taken. Okay, you can accompany with your family. Okay, sorry, your family can accompany with you. I'm sorry for that. Okay, Sattvic food will be given to you. All right, and we have also obtained clinical establishment license also. We have obtained the registration under Clinical Establishment Act also. Given these facts, do you think the money which we pay to this establishment, I don't know whether it is a clinical establishment or a resort, okay, is it liable to GST or not? I will repeat again. There is foothills of Himalayas. Next to that there is a establishment. I don't know whether it is a medical establishment or not, which is promising you treatment, which can be taken in Bangalore also. But in Himalayas, in pristine cool weather, it will be even better treatment. Okay, I don't have to pick up my phone every time. Okay, so that treatment is being given. Family can accompany me. They can enjoy, and I can undergo treatment. Okay, we will have good food which will be given, which will be arranged, and which will be as per the treatment only. No spicy food will be allowed. Okay, and we have taken a registration under the Clinical Establishment Act also. Now they are charging 30,000 rupees per person. Is it liable to GST or not liable to GST? For the patient, it will be exempt. It is healthcare in Himalayas. It is treating some disease. It is an extended holiday only. But look at the arguments one person came up with. So when we were discussing this with the client, okay, and he said it is exempt from tax, it is healthcare. And he also said, to the extent of family I will pay, to the extent of patient I will not pay. He said, what do you mean by a hospital? He should have a certificate. I have the certificate. The certificate will be issued to me only if I have in-house some 5 or 6 doctors or some criteria is there, only then a certificate is given. I satisfy all those criterias. Okay, I have a treatment room. I am giving medicines. I have all the equipments which are required for measuring BP. All the scans also can be done, the regular scans which are required before a treatment is required to be given. Plus, I also open a file, inpatient file, and maintain the records of the patient for whatever requirement is there in the Clinical Establishment Act. So whenever we go to the hospital, they create a file for us, not because they want to collect that 50 rupees or 500 rupees from us. They are mandatorily and statutorily required to maintain that file or medical records of the patient. Okay, so that's why we do that also. Now, if you satisfy all of these conditions, then there is definitely a possibility that this hospital, which looks like a resort, you will be able to claim exemption to the extent of money collected for patient, and for the balance, it will become liable to tax. Clear? Okay. Any doubts on this? Yes, sir. Sorry, institution gives? Okay. Okay. That's a very interesting point, which is what we also asked. Do you give your rooms to somebody who just walks in? Then that is not a medical establishment at all. That's a good point actually. What sir is trying to say is, you should not be listed on Make My Trip. That's all. You should be only available on Farm Easy. Then it is exempt. Otherwise it is not exempt. Right. Correct, no sir? Right. Okay. What are the supplies which are taxable, which can be given by the hospitals? We already covered it. Just summarize it, okay? Because these are relevant when I'm claiming input tax credit, because majority of my output is exempt. What is taxable? Cosmetic and plastic surgery, rent from pharmacy, parking lot, canteen. Root canal is definitely a treatment, but you will not believe, a doctor told me this, fixing the crown even for insurance purposes is treated as cosmetic in nature, and you will not get insurance claim for that. Okay, so it is cosmetic in nature, it will be liable to tax. It might be liable to GST. Okay. Then scrap sales, the hospital waste which they have to dispose of, if they get some money out of it. Okay. Honorarium to doctors for guest lecture. Unfortunately, a recent circular says honorarium is not exempt anywhere. Anything which is not exempt is liable to tax, so please pay tax on the same. This was issued in the context of teachers, but it will also equally apply even in case of doctors. Okay. So these will be some of the taxable activities. Everything else will be exempt activities. This will now decide the proportion in which you will be entitled to claim the credit, which will be hardly anything. Right? Okay. Sir, I'm sorry, we have time for questions? We have? Should I take the questions now or I can continue? How much time do you have? Sorry? 10 minutes. So if you are okay, I will continue. Otherwise, I'll take the questions. I have 1 or 2 slides, that's all. I'll continue? Okay, right. Okay. Now this return of expired medicine, though it does not, have an impact on hospitals, but that is one big issue which pharma industry is facing. Okay, because if I raise an invoice today, which is on 24th of December 2022, the last date for issuing credit note for the same, if there is a sale return, is 31st of October 2023. It has to be reported in the returns by 30th of November 2023. Correct? So invoices of 22-23, the credit note can be dated maximum 31st of October 23 and should be reported in the returns which are due for filing by 30th of November 2023 based on the latest amendment to section 34. Correct? Is my understanding right? Okay. There are certain medicines which has a shelf life of more than 1 year. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. So cosmetic surgery, Botox, okay, has a shelf life of more than 2.5 years. Okay. So now, there is a requirement under the Drugs and Cosmetic Act that the medicines, even if it is expired, it cannot be with the pharmacist. It has to be moved to the distributor, or it has to be moved to the manufacturer, who will call the incinerator and he will destroy all these medicines. So in case of medicine, pharma industry, the chemist who keeps stock of the medicine is never liable for the expired goods. It is always the liability of the manufacturer. So now if manufacturer sold goods to the distributor has sold the goods to the retailer, and unfortunately retail is not able to sell the goods within its best before date and the medicine expires, okay, the chemist or the retailer will now have to move the goods to the distributor will now have to move the goods to the manufacturer. The issue in this case is, if the time limit for issuance of credit note has lapsed, then who bears the GST? Okay, for that a circular was issued again in this case, where they said, if the time limit for credit note has lapsed, then you can do one thing. The retailer will issue invoice to the distributor and show as if he has sold expired goods. In fact, in law, you cannot sell expired goods. But the circular says that the retailer is going to issue invoice to the distributor to send back those expired goods by way of an invoice. Okay? And distributor is now going to sell it to the manufacturer, and then manufacturer, when he destroys, he will have to write off the credit. But the issue in this circular is, assuming the manufacturer's cost is 100 rupees and that medicine is selling at 300 rupees. Okay, the manufacturer's cost is 100 rupees and the medicine is selling at 300 rupees. Okay, the manufacturer actually, when he destroys the medicine, was required to reverse the credit only on his cost, because that is the amount of input he has got. Okay, when I reverse any stock, when I write off any stock, my cost I reverse the credit, no, not its MRP, right? Now in this model, just observe, manufacturer sells to the distributor at 200. Distributor sells it to the retailer at 300. Okay, stock is expired. Now retailer sells it back to the distributor at 300. Distributor sells it to the manufacturer at 200. Now what is the procurement cost of the manufacturer? 200. Now it is no longer 100. Now it is not manufactured product, it is purchased product. When he writes it off in his books, he will have to reverse the input tax credit on his purchase price, which is actually equal to his selling price. So that means he will end up reversing credit on a higher value. Okay. A lot of representations have been made, but as of now, this is what the circular says, and that is what is being followed by all the pharma companies. They are reversing on a higher value. Okay. Second, this is a issue even in VAT or composition scheme also. To the inpatient, where we saw that the tax is not applicable at all because it's a healthcare service, it's a composite supply of healthcare services. Okay, I am charging the customer at the MRP. The MRP itself is inclusive of tax. The issue then is you have indirectly collected the tax from the patient. Are you required to deposit the tax or not? Okay, that is another issue which is creating some problems for the hospitals. Third, who better than Naveen sir to address this issue, because he took this up before the advanced ruling authorities in Columbia Asia case. Now, I have a hospital in Bangalore. Okay, I have a hospital in Mumbai. I have a hospital in Delhi. I have in all the places. But the marketing is done by Bangalore for all the branches. I will take one celebrity. I will make ads out of it. India-Bangladesh match, those ads will get relayed. Okay. So the cost is being booked in Bangalore. But the benefit of this cost is being enjoyed by all the hospitals. Okay. So should that cost be sitting in Bangalore or should it move to other respective locations also? The problem in hospital industry is, okay, that even if I move the cost, the other entity cannot take the credit. In all the other companies, what do we do? Rule 28, second proviso, we use and say if it is transaction with a related party, whatever I mention on the invoice is deemed to be the open market value because the other person can claim the credit. But that advantage is not available in case of hospitals because hospitals are not allowed to claim input tax credit. So we cannot use valuation as per rule 28, proviso to rule 28. We will have to go with some open market value or like kind or quality. We will not find any answer. By default, we'll have to go to rule 30, which says cost plus 10%. So all this invoicing will have to happen at the cost to the corporate office, add a 10% margin, and based on turnover, distribute it to all the other branches. Or second, if you don't want to do it cost plus 10%, best take a ISD registration. All the common cost which is being incurred by the corporate office, ask the vendor to raise the invoice on the ISD, and from ISD on turnover basis, transfer these costs to the other branches. So that will be on a cost to cost basis. Though in all the cases we say, okay, ISD is not mandatory, but in case of hospitals, I believe it makes sense because there is an input credit restriction. Next, reversal of common credit. Hardly any credit will be available. First of all, credit whatever is eligible to me will not appear in my 2B. Correct? No, from there only problem will start. Right? If it appears in 2B, it is relating to exempt. Handful credit whatever is there multiplied by exempt turnover divided by total turnover, which is very huge, of course, because I am a hospital. I will not be entitled to claim. Hardly any input tax credit will be available to me. Okay. GST on import of services. We discussed if I am able to get away with registration, I am not required to pay. But if I am not able to get away, okay, there is one exemption entry which says that if services are received from outside India by a person in India who is not registered, who is a government entity, or who is registered under section 12AA, you are not required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. But that section 12AA is also applicable only to charitable institutions carrying out charitable activities, and charitable activities does not include healthcare services. So you will not get that exemption also. So if there is any import of services, you will pay full rate of tax. Again, input tax rate will not be available to you. Okay. This is what I had to discuss with you. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Just created one small group for all our friends where you can just scan this QR code, you'll be added to that group. If you want to get in touch, if you want to ask any questions on GST, I'll be more than happy to respond to those. Me and my partner both are there, so we'll be more than happy to answer all your queries relating to GST. Right? The contact details are also there. Right. I'll take a registration as ISD in Bangalore. I will ask all my vendors, including my auditors, to raise the invoice in ISD, okay, and then distribute the credit to the other branches, because in the hands of ISD, they are transferring the credit only. Now the recipient, because their outward supply is exempt, they will not be able to claim input tax credit of the same. So what ISD is transferring is credit only. But because the recipient is having only exempt supplies, they cannot claim the input tax credit. Okay. Sorry, you had
Sir, you told an example of hospital which charges 1,000 rupees to the patient and it retains 250 and passes 750 to the doctor, right? Here, my question is, if I am providing service like software like Practo or MyDoc, I am providing the same service, I am keeping 750 rupees and passing on 250 rupees to the doctor, whether that 750 also falls under business support service?
According to me, it is taxable. But we did a due diligence of one of the companies, I would not want to give the name. Somehow they have been able to get a clinical establishment license for this service. And they are not paying tax on the same. I would not want to name the startup, but they have got a clinical establishment license, even though they don't operate as a hospital, they operate as a platform.
Okay.
And they are not paying tax on that 750 rupees also.
Okay. Okay.
But I would believe it is taxable. It is a support to the healthcare.
Okay. Okay. Thank
How they have got it, no idea.
Okay. But clinical establishment we can get even if it is a private limited company. Means in the sense.
Yeah, like Cloud9, I was told, is going for IPO.
Okay.
So even a company can be a clinical establishment. Unlike education, where you have to have a trust. In case of educational institution, I am told if you have to get a license to give offer courses, you have to run as a trust. Only then the license is given to you.
Okay.
That is not applicable for hospitals.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, if a medical professional supplies, does online consultation, so in that case,
Healthcare, I don't, you had pointed this out, should it be in the hospital or not? I don't think that is
so
required.
not only that, so it becomes an e-commerce supply, right, in that case, when he's doing an online consultation through an online platform.
Okay.
So there is a person who is coordinating and
That Practo maybe
yeah, Practo. So Practo will keep some portion of the charge and the remaining portion is given to the doctor. So the entire portion is exempt in this case.
That's what I'm saying. Whatever is given to the doctor anyways is exempt because that is for healthcare services only. Yeah. The issue is whatever is retained by these e-commerce platforms. I would believe it is taxable. But when I was doing a due diligence for one of the companies, the tax position, what was communicated to us is that they have got a clinical establishment license. They are recognized to run this platform and so they are exempt from tax.
So they are exempt from TDS also.
Income tax, I have no
No,
clue.
no. This section 51.
No, once it is exempt, 52 will not come into picture
52,
itself because
yeah.
52 is applicable only for taxable supplies.
Taxable service.
So when you're not paying tax, then 52 will not come into picture
at all.
Sir, the services provided by a dentist doctor, is it exempt?
Sorry, services provided
Services
by
provided by dentist doctor.
a dentist, okay.
Is it exempt? Because you said like root canal will be outside the exempt
So
purview.
the regular treatment which does not qualify to be cosmetic in nature is exempt. So the root canal is exempt. But gold teeth, all that is cosmetic in nature, that will become liable to tax.
Thank you.
So the hospital run by a private limited company, what is the position of the payment paid to the director who is a doctor?
It will be liable to tax under reverse charge mechanism because a body corporate is receiving services from a director who is not a non-executive director. Executive director, it will be salary. Sitting fees paid to a non-executive director will be liable to tax under reverse charge
The
mechanism.
director is also in the capacity of a doctor who is treating patients.
But you are paying him because he's a doctor or you are paying him because he's a director?
He plays a dual role, say.
for whatever he pays as a doctor, it will be exempt, but whatever he gets because he's a director will be taxable.
How will you prove the
In your notes to accounts itself, you will have to tell director remuneration.
Okay.
Correct? No? Right. That much accounts I know. Right.
Sir, a medical establishment which has only exempt services.
Okay.
According to section 23, registration is not required.
Okay.
However, it has some RCM. Say, according to 24, it is one of the limb where
Right.
you need to like take a mandatory registration.
Right.
So my question is, even small amount, say 5,000 or something is there. Is it onerous on the medical establishment to take a registration?
That's where I said that 23 will override 24. That's what the entire discussion was all about.
However, it starts with a non-ostensible clause,
You
notwithstanding, right?
You
In
were
24.
watching mobile. Correct? No? Sir, please, when you release the video, send the link to sir. Already discussed in detail. 24 starts with notwithstanding anything contained in 22. 23 is not there in 24. Link sir will send. Okay.
No, I've heard that. Still, like, I just wanted to know, clarify whether notwithstanding is there, right?
Notwithstanding is only for 22, not for 23.
No, in 24 you have a notwithstanding, right?
Correct. Notwithstanding for what? Notwithstanding anything contained in 22(1), not 23(1). Correct? No?
Yeah.
So then which will override? Don't know. So that's why I gave you one mechanism to interpret. That 23 will override 24. And so you can claim an exemption from registration.
In the same analogy, sir, 22 and 23, there is nowhere notwithstanding is there. So which overrides what? It's a confusion, right?
No, see, I would think it is it is
Because you don't have a notwithstanding
22 says no, it need not have to everywhere. See, 16(1) says credit available. 16(2) says notwithstanding anything contained in 16(1), if conditions are satisfied, only then you will get the credit. 16(4) gives a upper limit for when the credit is available. So now can you say that 16(2) is notwithstanding 1, 16(4) is notwithstanding 16(2). So only 16(2) conditions are required, 16(4) condition is not required at all. All have to be read together, no? Only if there is any contrary view possible or if there is an overlap, then I will read 16(2) compared to 16(1). That's all. So likewise here also, 22 is saying if more than 20 lakhs, you please obtain registration.
That's right.
23 says if your turnover is exclusively exempt, then don't bother about registration. So it is going hand in hand, no?
Okay.
Correct. So it's going hand in hand. I don't think there is any issue there. Any other doubts? According to me, it is not taxable, sir.
Actually, what you told is like say they will check the BP and everything. That will all be done by the private hospitals where they are collecting the charges, like say 1K or something. But same vaccination is taken in the government or something, they will not check anyway.
They are
BP
required
sugar.
to check, sir.
But the thing is, practically, we are going to get the vaccination because they are charging 1,000 rupees. They will give a cup of coffee
But,
and they will do the form
coffee they did
filling,
not give
everything.
me.
No, in our place they used to do. That's why what I am saying is they are giving additional services, like say they are checking the BP and they are asking so many questions like that, filling a form, everything. But when we go take the same vaccination outside, we may not be in a position to just check the BP also. They will tell us to sit for 15 minutes. That's it, right?
So if you look at the SOP, which I had the opportunity to look at, the SOP requires you to do all these things. Okay, that is point one. Second, it can be administered by the nurse,
Okay.
but in the presence of a doctor.
Okay.
So these two SOPs are there as far as vaccination is concerned.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Right. Thank you very much for your patient listening. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
That was an excellent session by CA Hanish. Thank you, sir. On behalf of Bangalore branch of SIRCF ICI, I give vote of thanks to CA Hanish, sir, for his excellent session on GST aspects related to pharma and health sector. Let's all give a round of applause to sir. And now, can I request our chairman, CA Srinivas sir, to present a memento to speaker as a token of gratitude and respect. Now we'll break for tea for 15 minutes.